Hey guys, can everyone see and hear me well? If you can, let me know in the chat. Hello, how you doing, Ankit? All right, guess we are all set to start. So welcome to the day 3 of the Hashnode Bootcamp. As you all know, my name is Danny Passos. I'm the Developer Relations and Community Manager at Hashnode. So far, we had a great time. I'm super excited to have you joining us for another day of great sessions and discussions. And we have an excellent speaker lined up for you. James will be talking about freelance writing opportunities for developers. This session will be an AMA style, providing super cool insights for freelance writing opportunity in the developer world. So you can leverage your skills to generate income. And before we start today's session, I would like to take a moment to reintroduce Hashnode AI, which is a super cool new feature that enhances your blogging experience. So we offer AI-generated outlines, code blocks, summaries, and refined sentences. Also, SEO-optimized post titles, smart alt text for images, and much more. So if you guys do want to have a great experience, uh, rank your articles well in the search engines, and have a great visibility, I recommend you to check it out. And just as a reminder, if you guys want the Hashnode gift box, remember to write articles on Hashnode about what you have learned during the bootcamp and use the hashtag Hashnode Bootcamp when posting. And just to clarify to everyone, submissions deadline is 5 p.m. ET today. So don't miss out. The top 3 submissions will receive a super cool Hashnode gift box filled with surprises. I'm sure you guys will have a fun time unpacking that and checking it out. And with that being said, let's dive into our session for the day. And bringing up James here real quick. Okay.
Apparently, I have to reselect my video. There we go.
All right.
I had it before.
So
It made me reach.
you did. If you can give us a quick introduction about yourself, your
Yeah,
journey in the developer world, that would be awesome.
absolutely. Welcome, everyone. I am super excited to be here. Huge fan of Hashnode for several years now, and have done a few different collaborations on different things. One of my favorite platforms. So really awesome that they're doing this boot camp. Hope everyone is excited, getting a lot out of it, and will continue to get a lot of it out of it for the rest of the event. I am James Q. Quick. Now, most relevantly, I am a full time technical content creator. So I've had like 10 plus years of experience in software development and developer advocacy, with that side being a lot of public speaking at conferences, doing panels and Q&As and things like this. Got a comment on great camera setup. I do a lot of YouTube videos and video content, so this is what I do for my career. So that hopefully is a good indicator of a content creator. And anyway, as of 8 9 months ago, I've been doing content creation full time. So I do YouTube videos. I do spend a lot of time on Twitter. Do a lot of stuff on TikTok now. Do courses, public speaking, consulting for content, and probably part of that journey that I'll talk about is kind of intertwining writing as I was building up my brand and cross posting things in different places and cross posting videos onto blog posts and kind of repurposing content across the board. So anyway, everything content developer related is kind of what I focused on, and I'm super excited to be here and answer any and all questions that you have.
Awesome. Okay, I have a couple questions lined up for you here that I
Yeah.
prepared personally. So, what inspired you to start freelance writing as a developer? How did you get on this journey? What was your kickstarting point to get started
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, a lot of like me doing content in general was a requirement for my job. So I have a traditional computer science degree. I didn't know that was something I was interested in. I just chose a major in college and I ended up enjoying it. So it obviously worked out. But when I was applying for jobs coming out of college, I got turned down from Microsoft for two different jobs. And they liked me enough to ask me about a technical evangelist role, which is all the things that I just talked about, creating demos and speaking and doing workshops and that sort of stuff. I didn't know anything about that. I'd never thought about being a content creator. I'd never thought about blogs or videos or speaking or any of that stuff. And that became my job out of college. And so part of the answer is it was a requirement for me. Like I created my Twitter account when I started that job. I had a blog at that point, started doing YouTube videos. Like that was just what I had to do as part of that role. And so there's the requirement aspect of that. And then I reached a point several years into that of looking at this is a way that I can continue to build a brand. This is a way that I can make money on the side. Like the first literal pennies that I made on YouTube from YouTube ads were like a huge deal for
Nice.
me. Like I texted a friend of mine, I was like, I made 15 cents from YouTube ads from creating content. And so I eventually found specifically the ability to use written content as a way to do all those things, to continue to build my brand, to get exposure and make money. And so for me, it was a platform called Scotch.io, which I'm relatively good friends with the founder of Scotch now. They've since been bought by DigitalOcean. But I met him and I set a goal for myself that year in 2018, I think, of like, I'm going to write one article for Scotch.io. This is a big deal for me at the time. And so I wrote one article, got paid 150 or $200, which was nice. And then I just got on the cycle of taking every video that I did, I would try to create a blog post from that. And so I, again, was getting exposure through their big, massive platform and their audience and embedding my YouTube videos in that article as well to get more exposure for video and also making money. So that was kind of my gateway. And then like since 2017 or 18, I've just taken the building of my personal brand, the making money on the side, all those things and the benefits that come with it, like continuing to build and grow those to the point where now I get to do it full time and have like the ultimate flexibility and control over my career and the things that I get to focus on and where I spend my time. So I couldn't be more excited to be in the position that I'm in now.
That is really, really awesome. That's an awesome journey to get there. And that also, so what types of freelance writing opportunities would you say that are generally available for developers?
Yeah, there's lots of different programs that have guest author programs. So I worked at Auth0 for a few years, and they've got a pretty big. I'm in the room with my wife, who currently works at Auth0, and she smiled when I said that. By the way, but they've got a relatively big guest author program. I don't know how much they're doing now, but like Auth0 has that. I think I've done one with Twilio in the past. I did a lot with Scotch.io. I know PodRocket or LogRocket. They do the PodRocket podcast. They've got guest author stuff. So there's tons of companies that are looking to bring in people to create content because a lot of times teams don't have the ability to hire 10 different technical writers on a consistent basis. So they can bring in outside people, pay them, they get exposure, they get paid, all the things that I just mentioned. So there's a lot of opportunity for that. There's also just the potential to turn in like or to turn your own platform into something for yourself. And so you could do sponsored articles. I do a lot of sponsored videos, and it's a really neat opportunity for me to learn more about other companies and products that I would be excited to learn about anyway. I just now get paid to do that, which is really nice to kind of prioritize my time to experiment with that. Um, so there's lots of guest author programs. You can kind of do research, or maybe if anyone has specific questions, we can follow up with more specific
Mhm.
links to some of those in the future. But those are so great because they have an established audience that you get to kind of get exposed to, expose your brand and your personality and your content to, and then also get paid as you're trying to continue to build that up. So those are ones that I would definitely look for as just guest author programs for different companies.
Nice. How important would you say is having a niche and a freelance writing word for developers? Like, how do you choose your niche, or is
Yeah.
that important? And should you write about everything and anything? How do you go with that?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of different perspectives on this. I think from a growth standpoint, if you find a specific topic that you're interested in that also is broad enough for people to be interested in, it's beneficial to be able to be known for something so people know what to expect. So TypeScript as a topic is one that's really hot right now. There's lots of people that are creating really big courses on TypeScript. tons of people are learning TypeScript. Like if you wanted to be a TypeScript person, people are going to respond to you and look at you as the expert or an expert or at least someone that's very knowledgeable in that specific area and want to continue to follow like your journey of creating content around TypeScript as an example. So the benefit of that is people know what to expect. The downside of that is like maybe you limit yourself because maybe TypeScript's not as hot of a topic in 2 years, for example. Or maybe you want to now focus on a different topic in 2 years. And so another aspect of this is like just because your niche is X, Y, or Z right now, it doesn't mean it has to be that long term. Like you could do a certain niche for 6 months or a year or 2 years and then kind of pivot to what you want to do later. So for my personal brand, like I kind of leave the general idea of content to just web development and JavaScript in general. That gives me flexibility to choose like different frameworks, different technologies, go to full stack, front end, back end. I can do all these different things and it kind of still fits into my brand. But I also at times want to niche down a little bit more so that people are paying attention to me for a specific thing. So one thing that I'm working on now is building out a course on a framework called Astro, which I've built my personal website, rebuilt my personal website with. I'm super excited about it. It's really awesome. And so I'm going through this process of really focusing on Astro for several months to do all the things that go into launching a course. Another benefit of like taking your content and packaging it into something that people will pay for. So even if it like mine will be video, but even if it's just a series of articles or written things, like that's still a package that you can ship. But I have this idea for myself of spending 6 months at a time to be focused on a certain topic, like not exclusively, but like pretty focused on a given topic to build up a reputation in that, to build deeper technical experience in that specific area for myself, like as I build my skills. And then the output of that, having something that I could potentially turn into like value for the community, but also a paid product at the end.
Mhm.
So I'm kind of on this idea now of doing the 6 month cycle of kind of niching down into certain things over the course of 6 months and having an outcome be lots of value and lots of content, and then a paid piece of content at the end of that.
That is really awesome. Really like how you are managing that and managing also like the time frame between each one of that.
Hmm.
It also enables you to be like completely fresh and bring out the
Hmm.
different technologies that are rising right now.
Yeah, and it gives me, like
Okay.
you said, the flexibility to do different things, right? So I don't like
Yes.
just limit myself to only being this person, but maybe I am that person for a few months at a time.
Nice. Okay, another question from the audience. How can writers market themselves effectively to attract new clients?
I think like one of the biggest, most important things is having your own blog and having good pieces of content that they can refer back to. Because if you apply to any guest author program, they're going to want to see like what are the things that you've written in the past. And they're going to judge those based on, do we think you're capable of meeting the criteria, the high bar that we have for our guest author program, for example. So I would make sure that you have a series of articles that you've written that you feel are grammatically correct, they are technically correct. You've maybe had other people like come and review them to give you an extra set of eyes to just make sure like that's basically your portfolio. Those are the things that you're trying to show somebody like I can actually do this and this is what backs it up. So I think that that portfolio, that series of X number of articles that are really high quality to demo to them that you're capable of doing that, I think that's probably the most important things. I think another aspect of this too is your brand. Like as like if you write really good articles and nobody ever sees them, that's still a good thing, right? Like it's still like you have the proof of being able to write those articles. But
Yes.
also what helps that is the exposure of the things that you write, right? So if more people have seen you engage in the community, whether it's like a boot camp with Hashnode, it's active on Twitter, it's active in Discord, and you're not just telling people that you like write stuff, but you're actively contributing to the community by sharing code snippets or tips or responding to other people's tweets and that sort of stuff. Like just showing up in the community, I think is beneficial from your brand exposure. And then by virtue of that, people are going to be more exposed to the actual content that you create because you're engaging in the community in a valuable way. So I would say like having that strong set of articles that you can send people to refer to, and then also just showing up in the community, networking, just being engaging. Like I think people use networking as a cold, selfish thing, but it's really just engaging and showing up for the
Mhm.
community. And doing that means more people become more aware of the awesome stuff that you're already doing.
That's awesome. Okay. Let me see here. What are some resources or tools that freelance writers can use to improve their productivity and efficiency?
Yeah. I mean, like this is an easy plug, but like the the thing that people usually hold themselves that can hold people back is like, do I build my own website? Do I build my own blog? So obviously we're in a Hashnode environment, but this is genuine advice for me is like Hashnode, I think is the best place to start immediately. You do a couple of customizations, you've got a blog. Later on, you may like build your own personal site like I have and then cross post to Hashnode, but just get started is the number one thing for people to start. In terms of tools, I have a plugin in VS Code that's really neat called Front Matter CMS, and this helps me again. I do embedded Markdown on my own site and then cross post to Hashnode, and so the Front Matter CMS helps give like a visual management tool for my Markdown content. It's really neat. Like, go. I've got a video on YouTube if people are curious, but I love this. It's
Nice.
called Front Matter CMS for VS Code. Another thing is like tracking ideas and planning is super crucial because people ask me as a content creator, like I've done this so long, how do you come up with ideas? And the reality is like it's not hard to come up with ideas. It's I have many more ideas for content than I will ever be able to create. But what I do is I try to at least track those ideas, so I have a running ideas section inside of Notion to be able to track those. So anytime I don't have inspiration, I have a list that I can go and use. So make sure you're keeping track of that. Another thing for like productivity and efficiency is write about stuff that you're excited about. Because if you find
Mhm.
yourself writing about things that you're not actually excited about, it's going to be a lot harder to get that thing done because you just don't care as much. So make sure things are exciting for you as you're doing it. And AI tools, very helpful. Like Hashnode just launched a bunch of AI tools, which people should check out and leverage. I use ChatGPT on almost a daily basis for inspiration for titles or outlines or bullet points or just like any lack of creativity that I have. I go and ask ChatGPT to just kind of help give me some inspiration for things that I can go and work on. And I'll mention one last one is a product called Video Tap. So you can find it at videotapit.com. And this is from Chris Sev and Otto Kukic. Chris Sev is actually the person who was the founder of Scotch.io that I mentioned earlier. And Video Tap will take a YouTube video or just a video in general and write a blog post version of that for you. And you can export it. And then I export it and take it into VS Code into my embedded Markdown, but it's such an amazing tool. So all of my blog articles recently are using Video Tap to then not just transcribe, but actually like write the blog post for me. And then I go in and like tweak it and finish it to make sure it fits and it fits my voice and it makes sense. So that's been really helpful for me because I have so much video content out there. Now I can get the blog post version of this and continue to pump out written content on my blog. So Video Tap is awesome. And I think people in the chat have confirmed the Front Matter CMS is the VS Code
Yes.
extension. So if you're doing anything with embedded Markdown inside of your repo, highly recommend checking out Front Matter CMS. It's really incredible.
I'm gonna pull a question from the chat real quick. That
Yeah.
got a lot of votes here. So, as content creators, can you advise us on the correct or best way to actually use AI tech, and what would be the incorrect way to do that?
Yeah,
It's
that's
a
a
great
that's an awesome
question.
question. Yeah. Michael is a friend of mine online too. So hello, Michael. Um, I think there's the fear and the question of like, does AI replace us as developers and or us as content creators? And I mentioned using Video Tap. It's AI behind the scenes. It looks at video and it writes a blog post. The thing that you can't not be the approver of that though. Like AI is never perfect, so you have to be a part of the process. So I am all about leveraging the tools to give you inspiration to help generate some of the content for you, but at the end of the day as the creator, you have to have your hands on that content and you have to make sure that it meets your level of quality and it meets your voice and it meets the expectations of an audience. So I think the incorrect way would be an auto-generated blog post and not touch it at all and just ship it to your site. The correct way is to use that for a starting point, to use it for inspiration, and then go and build on top of that and customize it and really make sure that it does fit the things that you're trying to do and the tone that you're trying to convey, etc. There's tools all across the board. I think using AI to make suggestions for titles, like this is one of the things that makes such a big impact on whether or not someone reads your article and or watches a video is, does the title give them a reason to feel like they need to go read this article? Because we scroll all day long. We scroll YouTube, we scroll TikTok, we scroll articles on Hashnode, and I use a plugin called daily.dev, which is great if people haven't checked that out to aggregate articles. Like we scroll content all the time. And you got to think about, as people are scrolling infinite amount of content, how and why are they choosing to read and watch your content? And so the metadata around your article, the marketing behind it, from the title to the thumbnail to the hook, like all those things are incredibly important. And I think that's a use case for AI, is to get some inspiration for, like, how can I tweak this to make this a little bit more impactful so that people, when they come across it, they're going to actually choose to read my article or watch my video out of the thousands of things that we scroll on a daily basis.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for the question, Michael. Um, what do recruiters see in a candidate when hiring for a technical writing position? Are there positions in technical writing like STE? What's your take on
Yes.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's definitely technical writing positions. I we had a when I was at Aussier, and I don't know exactly, I think it's similarly structured now, but we kind of had two groups that worked close together. There was the developer advocate group, which is what I was in. So this is public speaking and video content at the time and engaging with people at conferences and that sort of stuff. Then there was also the content team. So there's an entire team dedicated to primarily the blog and documentation. And so then I went to Planet Scale, which is where I was most recently. And a good friend of mine, Holly, runs the content team there. I think it's developer education is what it's called. And so another friend of mine, Brian, works for her on that team and he does documentation and blog posts. And so you think about, like, the blog posts are very important for a product because it's bringing in SEO value and earning trust and respect in developer communities for the topics that they write about. So if you're looking at like a potential database company and they don't have like anything they've written that shows that they know about databases, you may question like them versus another company that has proven through content that they know about technical concepts with databases and best practices and thought leadership and all that kind of stuff. So are there positions available for that? Absolutely. There are content teams that many companies, or content roles that are specifically focused on doing content, whether it's blog and or documentation. So I think that's a definitive yes. Are there different levels to that? Yes. Just like any other software engineering role, going from junior to mid-level to senior to principal to blah, blah, blah. Yes, absolutely. And then what do recruiters see in a candidate when hiring for a technical writer? Again, I think the most important thing is being able to communicate technical concepts in a way that's understandable to people of different levels of experience and different audiences. So do you have the ability to take a really technical concept and explain it to someone that's not as technical? Do you have the ability to take a really technical concept and also explain it to someone who is also really technical? So do you have the ability to translate, like, here are the things from a company perspective we do and we want people to know about? Can you translate that to people of different audiences? I think is really important. And so going back to, how do you prove that you're good at this? It's writing. Like, you can write for yourself, you can write as a guest author, you can contribute to documentation through open source. Like, a lot of companies documentation is open source. So you can go do a PR on their documentation to say like, hey, I followed this tutorial. You missed X, Y, and Z steps, which made it difficult for me to follow this tutorial. I'll create a PR that'll give you better instructions, which means you're going to have a better developer experience for developer trying out your product, which then leads to conversions, which then leads to dollars for your company because the documentation is more a fit. So writing yourself, contributing to documentation when you see it, see opportunities available. And then I think the other thing I would recommend to people, like if that's a specific job title that you want to go and apply for potentially, go and do research by reaching out to people who are already in that job title. So I can give all the advice that I have. I've never been specifically a technical writer. So there are people out there that already have these roles that you can reach out to on LinkedIn or Twitter or the Hashnode Bootcamp or whatever and say, "Hey, I see that you do this job for this company. I would love to learn about your experience before getting there, why you were interested in this job, what you had done before, what is it that you think was good about you that they hired you for, and maybe do you have any suggestions on things I could approve?" So everything, like I can sit here and give advice all day, which I love to do, but go and reach out to the people who are specifically in the job title that you want to be in and learn from them as well.
That's a really, really great tip. Okay, here's a hard question for you. Do you believe that we can make good living from blogging, YouTube, paid course creation instead of being a full-time dev? It's a
I don't
tough one.
know. Well, I don't know if I should be offended by this or not because I like this is what I do for a living, not offended, but like it is a great question, but I can definitively say the answer to this question is yes. You can make like I make really good money if people want to have specific conversations about the amount of money I make. I'm happy to have that, not from a brag perspective, but just from transparency because I think a lot of people question whether or not this is a reality. And so last year as an example, again, just for reference, I made six figures from content with only working on content full time for 6 out of the 12 months of the year. So there is plenty of money to be made from creating content. And if you look at the opportunity of creators, not just in the web development space or not just in the programming space or tech space, like if you look at creators across the board, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, we see these people every day that have thousands and millions of followers. And they have, like, as you build this audience, you can leverage that audience to build a business and leverage it in a good way by providing value to people first and then also layering on like, hey, I've provided the free value, here's a paid thing that you may be interested in to go deeper into. So can you make a good living from blogging, YouTube, paid course creation? Absolutely. There's more and more of us like every day, I think. Like I see more people either leaving a job or maybe in my case, I was let go from my company because they went in a different direction and that became my opportunity to pursue this full time. So absolutely. And I think like benefits of that, like it's different, but benefits for me is the ultimate flexibility, the ultimate control. And at the end of the day, it's my ability to definitively prove what I'm capable of. So if I'm working in a team and I enjoy that, but if I'm working in a team and we accomplish something, not that I need a bunch of credit myself, but I still don't specifically know what I did had what impact. Like you can guess and you can kind of feel like I did this, I helped us accomplish this. But if you want to know what you specifically are capable of, that's an opportunity to go and do that thing for yourself and prove to yourself one way or another. And when I started doing this last July, I had no idea if I was going to be able to do this long term. And I'm coming up on a year in a few months, and I feel really, really confident about doing this for the foreseeable future. I plan on doing this for the foreseeable future. I'm excited to continue to learn more about building a business around this, specifically from the course creation perspective and learning more about marketing and all these things. That's also another important point, though. Like, as you do content or just working for yourself full time, everything is your responsibility. So I have to spend time figuring out taxes. I have to spend time figuring out how to get invoices paid. I have to spend time doing all of these logistical things, which are tough and they're challenges. But it also again comes back to the full ownership of everything that I build and do now. I know I was able to do that myself. So short answer to the question, absolutely, it's a possibility. Is it easy? No. The other last thing I'll mention is like I'm able to do this full time after having done this for years leading up to the point of doing it full time. So don't just assume you can make a decision to say, I'm going to be a full time content creator and it's going to be super easy and you'll make lots of money. It's a consistency thing. It's a practice thing. It's something, again, I've been doing for years to the point where now I'm in a position to be able to do it full time, but absolutely a possibility.
Gotta put on the work, right? If you
Hmm.
wanna get it, you gotta
Yeah.
go for it. Like, focus on it and make sure that you get to a good consistency, like James said. So that's really important. Okay. Should you initially focus more on quality or quantity to attract a good audience?
This is such a good question. The biggest thing, the biggest first recommendation is just to start. So again, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Many people overthink. They want things to be perfect, and so they either take way too long to publish their first thing, whether it be a video or article or whatever, or they never publish it at all. And so, what I would encourage people to do is, especially very early on, just publish. Like, if you feel uncomfortable about it, that's probably a good thing. And that just means you're able to iterate on that and do better on the next one. And so, if you look at this point in my career, like I've created 500 videos across multiple platforms. I've written 100, 200, I don't know how many exactly, but 100 articles total. Like I've done this over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's where you can iterate on that and try to get better. So I would encourage you, like, you don't want to do anything that's like really really terrible, so you have to find that line. But without going that far, like, I would encourage you to focus on quantity early on and then figure out each step how to minutely increase your quality. So you go through this iterative cycle of paying attention to, all right, I did this, didn't like that part, love this part, I could tweak this, and the next one I'll do this better. That didn't work, and the next one I'll do this. That worked. I'll continue to do that. Like, that cycle, I think, is what's most important. So early on, I would absolutely focus on getting stuff out there, shipping not necessarily as much as you can, but kind of close to that, and then refining that process to make yourself more efficient and refining the output to have the ability to continue to increase that quality with every piece of content that you create.
Okay, let's see here who has the most upvotes in the questions. It's a good one. Okay, how do you get back to content creation after a vacation? This is when the procrastination kicks in for me. It's a great question.
Yeah. So the coming back from vacation is a definitely an important part of that. But I'll take this a step back and not even like address the coming back from vacation part. I'll address the like general consistency. Like, how do you stay consistent? And I think this will relate back to that same example. And the answer for me is always to do things that you're excited about. Like, if you go away to vacation and you come back and know you have something that you're excited to do, you're gonna feel more comfortable getting back into it. Versus if you turn this into something that you feel like you have to, you're not gonna be that motivated. And that's why, like, I try to pay a lot of, like, attention mentally to how I feel about the content that I'm creating, because it really does, like, I've been in situations where it's like, "Oh, I feel like I should do this video," and I'm not into it, and it just makes it a miserable experience. It's just not as fun. And it shows, right? Like, people respond to your personality and how you respond to the content that you're creating more so in video, because they can kind of see and get a better feel for how you feel. But I think that's the number one thing, is just do stuff that you're excited about. And going back to, like, should I focus on this piece of content or this piece of content or this topic or this niche or whatever? Let that be something that you're excited about. And this goes across, like, not just creating content, but everything that you do in your career. I think a lot of us miss the fact that, like, a lot of us look at a job as a job and we kind of just accept, this is my job, this is what I do, I like this, I don't like this, and that is what it is. But the reality is, you should look at, like, everything that you do on a daily basis, and you should be figuring out, like, what are the pieces of my job that I enjoy and how can I do more of that? Whether it's having a conversation with a manager, just say, hey, I would love to spend more time doing this. Maybe it's looking for a different role that specifically does more of that type of thing. But that's my mentality, is like, if I find myself doing stuff that I'm not excited to do, I want to reevaluate and see if that's something that I can do less of in the future, so that I can pivot my time to do more of the stuff that I'm excited about. So as you come back from vacation, like, yes, there's a context switch to get back into the stuff that you were doing. But I think doing stuff that you're excited about first and foremost is the most important. I think also building your routine. So this is slightly different than the content creation perspective, but I find that my routine for being productive in the morning, for how I eat during the day, for how I do all these different things, if I have my routine of going to bed relatively early, I'm more productive and I'm more accountable for the things that I do, from a work perspective, from an eating perspective, all of those things. But if I find my calendar, like, adjusted where I'm staying up late at night, like everything is thrown off. So getting back into those routines of like maybe I wake up at 8 o'clock, maybe I spend an hour kind of brainstorming things once a week or twice a week or working on content once or twice a week, whatever that is. Try to get back into that routine and get into the rhythm of having that be a part of your day. And for the time that you spend doing that, just make sure it's something that you're excited about.
Okay. This is a related question. It received a lot of upvotes. So, how do I deal with writer's block? And also, is it safe to run a series on a particular topic?
Yeah, writer's block, absolutely fair. Like I've had ideas for videos, and I mentioned videos more because that's where I spend more of my time on. But same thing goes for written content. But had an idea for something, I go to record it or write it, and I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. There's nothing wrong with pivoting and doing something else. Again, going back to what are the things that you're excited about, and part of that answer is like you have to spend intentional time considering that question because most of us don't really spend time thinking mentally how we feel about the day-to-day things that we do. We just kind of do it. So if you take a step back and really pay attention to what are the things that you enjoy, I think that's the easiest thing. Another thing that I find for myself is I go through phases of I create a lot of content, which means I write less code than a software developer, for example. I find myself needing that coding time. So sometimes like I just need to shut off content. I need to just go work on a side project, like some sort of demo, some sort of code because I need that. Like I need to break up the content part and get to the code. So that mind shift I think helps to overcome writer's block. It also then potentially gives you more content to work on because every line of code that you write, every technical problem that you solve, every framework that you use, every technology that you use, everything that you do from a technical perspective can be content. So if you take a step away from the content to just focus on the technical and go work on a side project, go work on a demo, go work on something code related, not only are you helping break up that mental space, you're also then potentially generating more ideas for content that's then fresh for you. So if you go and solve some problem using X framework in JavaScript, now you can immediately say like, oh, like other people may benefit from this as well, and I enjoyed working on this. I can go and translate that to a new piece of content now because it's fresh in my mind. So I love the idea of like whatever your things are that you kind of need, and that's very personal to people. Like sometimes it's coding, sometimes it's me going out for a walk, sometimes it's me going out to my I do this a lot, like play basketball in my driveway for an hour because I just need that time away to break it up. Like find out what those things are and make sure you're incorporating those into your schedule and taking time for yourself, and then come back and do something that you're excited about. And the follow up question to this is it safe to run a series on a particular topic? Yes. I think lots of people fear creating content on topics that have already been covered. And they think, oh, so and so already did an article on this, so and so already did a video on this. And they shy away from doing their version of that article or video. But the reality is, we scroll content every day. Like all of us, I certainly do. I don't know if not everybody, but I scroll content every single day, way more than I should. And so the reality is, there's way more people to consume content than there is content, which is hard to believe because there's so much content, but there is so much content because so many people are looking for content on a daily basis. And the fear of people having already done that can't stop you from doing your version. Because if you think about when you have a question or you want to solve a technical topic and you're looking for help, you may go and search articles on Hashnode, you may go and search videos on YouTube. Most likely what's going to happen is you're going to watch or read one of those and you're going to get some context or some piece of the answer, and then you're going to go and watch another one or read another one, and then you're going to maybe watch or read a third and finally piece it all together. Or maybe you read two articles that just didn't click with you because the way they wrote it, not that it was bad, it just didn't click, it didn't resonate, or the examples didn't resonate. So most of us consume multiple pieces of content to answer a question anyway. So you could just be one of those perspectives. You could be one of those voices. You could be one of those demos. You could be one of those examples that helps make this topic click. So don't think that just because a topic has been written about or people have created content around it doesn't mean that you can't also provide your unique voice, your unique experience to provide value for people as they're searching for those answers as well.
That's awesome. Okay, we are a little bit over time. Do you have time for some more questions here?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm good.
Okay. So, Should I be making content alongside learning, like talking to people, recording, and also
Yeah.
sharing it with people when you are just starting?
100%. There is no bigger piece of advice that I have for people early on in their career than to share their learning journey for multiple different reasons. So, a little bit of context, I have taught 2 rounds of a boot camp called Launch Code, which each round of that boot camp started at 150, 160 people. So, all in all, I've taught 300 plus people through boot camps. And the most successful people that I've seen in boot camps are the people that go beyond just participating in class. And what that means is they're now sharing the things they learn. They are participating in 100 days of code hashtag, for example, as a way to stay accountable. They are participating on Twitter, or they're in Discord, they're in meetups, they're engaged in the community. And so those sort of things definitively, I think, will make you a more successful learner in any stage of your journey, really, for multiple different reasons. One thing is, I people have said this a lot, like the best way to learn is to teach, or the best way to continue to learn is to teach, because it's very different thinking you understand something versus then having to explain that to someone else. And I've been guilty of this myself. Like, I have an idea for a video and I go to record this video and realize I don't know what I'm talking about. I need to go and do research and like take a step back and make sure that I do understand what I'm talking about so that I can convey it to other people. So the teaching aspect of that, the talking about the thing that you're building or you learned, is a phenomenal way to reinforce things that you already learned, or realize the gaps in the things that you've already learned, or the things that you should have learned. The other aspect of that, by practicing that communication, whether it's written or spoken or whatever, you're going to be that much more able to talk about things in an interview. Because a lot of what an interview is tell me about a technical project that you've worked on and what were the pieces and how they fit together and how they work. Why'd you make these choices? If you've already written about this or talked about this in video content, you're that much farther ahead. And for me, like if I go to apply for a job, if you want to know if I know how to talk about technical topics, go and watch one of 500 videos. If you want to know if I understand JavaScript, go and watch one of 500 videos. Like if you want proof of me with this knowledge, I've got the proof. The words on the resume don't mean anything. The content speaks for my background and my experience. And so that can become your portfolio. That can become a piece of your portfolio to give people credibility, to give yourself credibility to the fact that you know what you're doing with these topics that you're looking to get hired for. The last piece of this is the continued brand exposure. Like, I love the idea of 100 days of code hashtag, because it keeps you accountable and it keeps you engaged on a consistent basis over an extended period of time, which is 100 days. So the benefit of that is the more you share, the more people see that you're sharing. And if you share that in a genuine way, the more people respond to it. Which, this is not the reason we do this, but the more people who see that, the more people who follow you. The more people who follow you, the more people who, when they have job opportunities, they now know you're a person that's looking for a job because you've been talking about this in your status updates. Or they're hiring for a specific skill set. They know you have that skill set because you've been talking about this on Twitter and you've written articles about it. One other thing I forgot to mention is, as you're learning, you are the most relevant person to create content on that topic because you intimately remember what it's like to learn that thing. I, having started learning JavaScript in 2016, I don't truly remember what it's like to be learning JavaScript from scratch, right? Like, I've written a lot of JavaScript since 2016. So even though I know introductory topics and I know that I can teach them, I think, in a good way, I will never again have the perspective that someone else will have as they just learn that thing because they know what it's like. So in my mind, as you learn something, you're the best voice. You're the best person to go and teach that thing because you intimately remember what it's like to have learned that thing just now.
Great answer. Uh, it's a great one. How do you see a role of technical writing evolving in the future?
I think this is something that is growing in popularity in terms of roles. Like, I think content teams and documentation experts are growing. I think from a developer experience perspective, if you've ever tried a product and the docs don't match what you expect, you don't use that product. Like, you probably don't fight very hard to use that product because they didn't help you get to where you wanted to be. And you may go and look for an alternative. So I think the realization of how important that sort of stuff is growing. So that's from a documentation perspective. The technical writing from a blog content perspective, again, looking at like a marketing funnel for a company. If people can create content that brings eyes to their website and their product, and then you see conversion rates of like, we have X number of people visit the blog, and X number of those people on a monthly basis try out the product, and X number of those people then go on to pay us for it. The dollars just make sense. Like, we invest this amount of money to hire someone to do this role. In theory, it's going to lead to this amount of revenue for the company, which is what we need. So I think we're seeing more of those types of roles than we've seen in the past. I think that's growing, which is a good thing. I think AI does play a factor into this going forward. And like, you could go down the more dramatic route of does it replace the jobs? And the reality is it doesn't. Like, AI is not going to replace a technical writer. AI is not going to replace a developer. AI is not going to replace a content creator. What it does though is enable those people to do more and do more efficiently and do more better maybe than we have before. Like I said, I get inspiration for my content all the time. I have AI assist me in taking a YouTube video and converting that to written content that more people get to benefit from and help broaden my funnel of my exposure for people in my content. So AI, I think, absolutely influences that, but not in a way that replaces it. It augments it to the point where we're more powerful as developers and content creators and technical writers than we ever have before. So I would just look at like the evolution of tooling and take advantage of that and use it for what it is, while also making sure, as we said before, to bring that personal touch, to make sure that you are the person that has that final vision, that has that final approval on generated content to make sure it fits. So overall evolution, it's growing as a role. I think we'll see more and more of those types of roles. I think more companies are seeing the importance of developer experience and educational content, et cetera. And I think the tools are kind of evolving how we do it, but not replacing the fact that we have to be there to do it.
That's awesome. Okay, last but not least, one more question, then we'll close out the AMA. What are some of the best practices for writing clear and concise technical documentation? Now expand that to educational content in general.
Yeah, I think having an idea beforehand of like what are the points that you want to get across. I think it's really easy for us to feel like we need to talk a lot, to feel like we need to write a lot to get our point across. And the reality is, one of the biggest things I've learned with creating content is whatever you write or record initially, like, probably do 50% of that. Like, just try to get it down to like as concise as possible. And when I think about consuming content, if you look on YouTube or you look at an article for like, I want to know how to do X, Y, and Z, I would much rather have the 5 minute read or video than the 20-minute one that just talks a bunch. Like, I'd much rather get down to the point of what I'm looking for. And so you can kind of pay attention to how you consume content and how you make decisions on which content to consume. Cause I want the answer. And if you also get into some of the philosophy behind, or the mentality or the psychology behind how people consume written content, they're scanning. They're scanning for headers. They're scanning for bullet points. So another thing to avoid is long paragraphs of text. You're just going to lose people. So anytime you have the ability to change a paragraph to a bullet point that are like 3 bullet points that are short, that still hit those specific topics, that's a win. Anytime that you can add in like a call out for something that's really important in like a block quote, that's a win as well, because you're able to emphasize like, here's all the stuff that you may look through. Here's the things that are the most important. And that scan goes from headers to bullet points to call outs, etc. By really focusing on that being the driver of your content, that's going to pay much more dividends in terms of being clear and concise than just trying to write to fill words or to get to a minimum number of words. Because if you're trying to fill space, you're already kind of losing your audience, you're already losing your attention. So do some planning beforehand to say like, here's the X number of like points that I want people to take away from this. Remove any additional sentences that just don't provide context. Go back and reread it multiple times and say like, I don't really need this part. Rip that stuff completely out, and then translate paragraphs to broken up pieces of text that have hierarchy to them to draw the users or the reader's eyes to them. Because if you really pay attention, like we just scan for keywords and headers as we go through content. So you need to play into that to make sure that the most relevant stuff is also the easiest to find and read as people are going through your content.
That's awesome. Thank you for answering that. So we are a little bit over time, so I'll let you go from now. But thank you, James, for joining us. I'm sure everyone here had a great time following the AMA. I can see here in the chat box. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate your time for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Really a huge fan of Hashnode and everything that you all are doing. Hope everyone enjoys it as well. If anyone has like follow up or questions or engagement or anything, I run a Discord if people are interested called Learn Build Teach at learnbuildteach.com if people want to join and hang out and participate in the community there. But thanks again for having me.
For sure. If you can paste the Discord channel in the chat, that
Yeah,
would also be awesome. And all
we'll
right, I'll take over from here.
put the wrong link in there. There's the learnbuildteach.com. There you go.
All right. See you.
Cool.
Bye
Thank you.
bye. So, everyone, I'm back over here. And that actually brings us to the end of day 3 in conclusion to the Hashnode Bootcamp. I really appreciate you for joining us today for this insightful AMA with James on freelance writing opportunities for developers. I really hope that you guys found the discussion informative and inspiring and got some really great takeaways from it. And due to personal reasons, our speaker for day 2 won't be joining us. So therefore, we'll be closing day 3 a little earlier than initially planned. And as our bootcamp comes to an end, I encourage you to continue engaging with the attendees, everyone that you got to meet here in the chat box, also the speakers, as us from Hashnode on socials. I really love that you guys were able to participate throughout the event and had a great time and sent us some amazing questions. So, quick reminder, I'll be going through your articles on Hashnode about what you have learned during the bootcamp using the hashtag Hashnode Bootcamp. And the submissions deadline is today, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So make sure to get your articles ready, get some really cool insights over there for a chance to win one of the amazing Hashnode gift boxes. And on behalf of the entire Hashnode team, I really would like to express our gratitude for your enthusiasm and for joining us. And remember to stay connected with us and our speakers on socials. And keep an eye because we're going to have many more amazing boot camps like this. So have a great day. And I hope to see you guys in our next event. I'm glad you guys had a great time. Bye, guys. See you. We'll talk to you on socials.